It started as a vision. It turned into a terror. Madam Web experiences forebodings of a being known to her as the Dark One, wreaking havoc everywhere. She confesses she's fighting for her life, completely powerless, unable to even cry out. We witness the Dark One clashing with Spider-Man, who manages to dodge the Dark One's grasp temporarily. However, the Dark One eventually strikes, his blow not only shattering the surroundings, but also defeating Spider-Man. Madam Web is introduced further as we understand she is visually impaired, but has the gift of seeing the future. She relies on her mental commands to operate the cybernetic controls of her life-sustaining chair. The devices in her room are revealed to be vital in keeping her alive. She reaches out to Spider-Man, requesting his protection against the relentless Juggernaut. Juggernaut bursts onto the scene, telling Black Tom Cassidy that he seeks a challenge that matches his immense abilities. Cassidy suggests that they recruit Madam Web to foresee the X-Men's actions, thus providing them an advantage in future confrontations. Eager for a real fight, Juggernaut leaps from Cassidy's yacht into the harbor, sinks to the bottom, and starts his walk to Manhattan. Madam Web detects Juggernaut's moving closer to her location. She contacts Peter, warning him that Juggernaut will emerge from the ocean at Battery Park, and he must intercept him. We see a flashback to Spider-Man's earlier methods of protecting his identity, as he used to encase his civilian clothes in a web cocoon and swiftly change into his costume. At that moment, Spidey assumes Submariner is the cause of concern for Madam Web, not knowing it's actually Juggernaut. Juggernaut emerges at Battery Park and reflects on his transformation from a rebellious young punk to the formidable Juggernaut, aided by the mystical ruby of Sidorak found in an ancient Asian temple. Spider-Man tracks a path of destruction, unsure if it's the Submariner or the Hulk causing it. When he finally confronts his target, he attempts a surprise attack by kicking Juggernaut in the back, but it has no effect on Kane. As Juggernaut's protective field activates, Spider-Man devises a new strategy to halt him using his webs. He constructs a web barricade which Juggernaut charges into, but the anchors securing the webs fail to hold. The webbing doesn't slow him down at all. Spidey then enlarges an existing pothole in an attempt to halt Juggernaut, but that proves ineffective as well. Finally, he opts for a direct confrontation. Clinging to Juggernaut, Spider-Man is taken on a destructive path through a building, which forces him to scramble away. Madam Web contacts Spidey once more. Spidey admits he can't stop Juggernaut alone and asks her to reach out to the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and the Avengers, but none are available. He visits Doctor Strange's residence. Unfortunately, Wong informs him that his master is unavailable. Spider-Man finds himself relying solely on the police to attempt to stop the Juggernaut. The police deploy heavy weapons in an effort to impede him, but they are unsuccessful as Juggernaut reaches Madam Web's apartment. Spidey, guided by insights from Madam, prepares an electrified web trap for Kane. However, this too only momentarily slows Juggernaut, who grows increasingly agitated by Spider-Man's weak traps. Spider-Man stands guard over Madam, determined to protect her to the end. Madam cries out that everything is unfolding as she had foreseen in her dreams. Spider-Man and Juggernaut clash, with Spider-Man evading Juggernaut's mighty blows for a time, but he is eventually overwhelmed by one that causes the ceiling to collapse on him. Juggernaut removes Madam from her life support chair, triggering convulsions that nearly end her life, and Spider-Man informs Juggernaut of this. Kane decides to drop Madam Web on the floor and leave. Spider-Man does everything he can to sustain Madam's life. An ambulance arrives and takes her to the hospital. Spidey blames himself, thinking he has let her down just as he did Uncle Ben, Captain Stacy, and Gwen. He believes their deaths were his failures. He vows not to let Juggernaut escape unpunished for what he did to Madam and declares he will stop him or die trying. Tracking his adversary proves fairly straightforward, as Juggernaut has blazed a clear path of destruction. Spider-Man moves to a construction site nearby and uses his webbing to catapult a steel beam towards Juggernaut. However, Juggernaut intercepts it and easily crumples it. Juggernaut charges towards the construction site and rips off the whole corner of the building, causing the building where Spider-Man is perched to collapse. Spider-Man leaps to safety and tries to hit Juggernaut with a wrecking ball. As with previous attempts, Juggernaut deflects the wrecking ball effortlessly. It hits another building due for demolition, which collapses. Spider-Man narrowly escapes being crushed. After escaping from the rubble, Spider-Man learns from the construction workers that Juggernaut walked away unscathed from the building's collapse. Meanwhile, from his yacht, Black Tom watches for Juggernaut. He becomes frustrated upon seeing that Juggernaut has not succeeded in capturing Madam Web. Spider-Man finally catches up to Juggernaut, only to find that his web shooters are out of webbing. He climbs onto a Roxxon fuel truck, checking his belt only to discover all his webbing cartridges are depleted. Confronted by the truck driver wielding a tire iron, Spider-Man quickly disarms him and bends the iron into a pretzel shape, causing the driver to flee. Then, Spider-Man drives the fuel truck directly at Juggernaut. But Juggernaut stands firm, and the collision results in a huge, fiery explosion. Juggernaut withstands the colossal explosion resulting from the truck impact. Enraged that Spider-Man has been a constant irritation, Juggernaut shakes off the flames and pursues the web-slinger. Spider-Man leaps onto Juggernaut's back, clamping his arms over the visor slits of his helmet. Despite Juggernaut's fierce attempts to dislodge him, Spider-Man clings on determinedly. Enduring the Juggernaut's punishing hits, Spider-Man leads him onto the fresh concrete of a newly laid building foundation. As Spider-Man anticipated, Juggernaut starts to sink into the soft concrete. Spider-Man jumps clear, watching his adversary slowly submerge completely, his voice becoming muffled and eventually silenced, drowned out by the wet concrete. Spider-Man hopes this will finally restrain him. Peter then hurries to the hospital to visit Madam Web, only to find that her brief disconnection from life support has caused her to lose her memory, including her recognition of Peter Parker. The doctors inform Peter that it could take months to determine if her memory loss is irreversible. On the banks of the Hudson, Black Tom observes the police encircling the site where Juggernaut was trapped. He eagerly anticipates his partner excavating himself from the concrete. However, as time passes and Juggernaut remains stuck, Black Tom starts to suspect that his ally might have been stopped for the very first time.